Did God answer Jesus' prayer in the Garden of Gethsemane? This is the question that we seek to answer today as we continue our verse-by-verse study of the book of Luke on Walking Through the Bible. If you have a Bible with you, turn to Luke 22. We're going to be reading from verses 39 to 46. If you don't have a Bible, don't worry. Just follow along with us on the screen. The version that we'll be reading from is the New King James Version. So, Luke chapter 22, beginning at verse 39. Coming out, he went to the Mount of Olives, as he was accustomed, and his disciples also followed him. When he came to the place, he said to them, "Pray that you may not enter into temptation." And he was withdrawn from them about a stone's throw. And he knelt down and prayed, saying, "Father, if it is your will, take this cup away from me. Nevertheless, not my will, but yours be done." Then an angel appeared to him from heaven, strengthening him. And being in agony, he prayed more earnestly. Then his sweat became like great drops of blood falling down to the ground. When he arose up from prayer and had come to his disciples, he found them sleeping from sorrow. Then he said to them, "Why do you sleep? Rise and pray, lest you enter into temptation." Jesus is about to be arrested. It is merely hours away. Luke didn't tell us that Judas had already left to go get the soldiers, but John will give us that detail. We also get from the other Gospels that Jesus did say a couple of things to the disciples on the way to Gethsemane, but Luke leaves those sayings out, saying that they came out and went to the Mount of Olives, as he was accustomed, and his disciples followed him. We learn from Luke 21 that during this final week that Jesus was accustomed to come here at night. Why would he do this? Well, for one, it was a quiet place where Jesus could teach, reflect, and pray. But there's also another reason: Judas. If Jesus spent his final week going from house to house, Judas might not know where to find him. Moreover, the soldiers would have to come to a house to arrest Jesus, meaning there would have been more people to oppose Jesus' arrest. No, Jesus picked a secluded place away from the crowds. He went there every night that week, so Judas would know where to look. And in our next lesson, we find that Judas found him pretty easily. When they arrive in the Garden of Gethsemane, which is on the Mount of Olives, he told the disciples to pray they may not enter into temptation. This is a good thing to pray about, but especially at this time. It was late at night. When does temptation usually strike? When we are at our weakest, when our mind is not focused. So since the day had been a long day, it was good that they pray that they not enter into temptation. Moreover, though, Jesus was about to be arrested. It might be tempting to try and kill the people who came to do this. It might be tempting to do all sorts of things that would lead them into sin. Asking for God's help that they might not enter into temptation was therefore helpful for that as well. Today we should be praying to the Father that we not enter into temptation. So often we pray to God after we enter into temptation or after we sin. Wouldn't it be better to pray before we are tempted? Now, it doesn't always mean that if we pray this that we will never be tempted, but it does give us the opportunity to place our trust in God and allow Him to help us in our lives. After telling the disciples this, Jesus went about a stone's throw away and knelt down and prayed to the Father. He prayed that if it was the Father's will to take this cup away from him, nevertheless, not my will, but yours be done. There are a few things about this prayer that need to be discussed. The first thing is the full submission of Jesus to the will of the Father. Jesus is God. He was God before he came to this earth. He was God on this earth, and he is God today. Yet Jesus' relationship with the Father is such that even though he is God, he is still in submission to the Father. So being in submission, he doesn't demand that the Father do something. He requests it of him. What was he requesting? That the Father take this cup away from him. Jesus' request here has confused many people. Some conclude that Jesus was asking that the Father find some other way to save mankind, some way other than the cross. Yet Jesus had prophesied of his death on many different occasions. He instituted the Lord's Supper hours earlier with the bread representing his body that he wore to the cross and the fruit of the vine representing the blood that was shed. Jesus knew what the penalty for sin was, and he knew the only acceptable price for sin that the Father demanded was the shed blood of an innocent man. Why then would Jesus pray such a prayer when he knew that that would not be according to the Father's will? I suggest that he would not. If that is true, then, what was Jesus praying for? Verse 44 gives us a hint. Jesus was in agony at that moment. He knew what was about to happen, for not only was he going to experience physical pain, he would experience mental and emotional pain, and the sins of the whole world would be laid upon him. He was dreading what was about to happen, that his sweat became like drops of blood falling to the ground. It was this agony, this suffering that Jesus was praying to be removed from, if it be the Father's will. And while the Father didn't completely remove the agony, God did send an angel to strengthen him, showing us the great mercy that the Father had for his Son, even at this particular time of suffering. When Jesus got up from praying, he came to the disciples and found them sleeping. They weren't sleeping out of indifference. They were sleeping out of sorrow. For even if they didn't understand all that was about to happen, they knew something was about to happen. Jesus asked them why they slept, for they needed to arise and pray, lest they enter into temptation. Luke leaves out that Jesus went and prayed 3 times, but such was not necessary for his account. We will continue with the story, the Lord willing, in the next lesson. With that, our time is up for today. The Lord willing, we hope you'll join us for tomorrow's discussion of Luke chapter 22, verses 47 to 53, as we continue our walk through the Bible, one verse at a time. Thank you for watching today's episode. We hope that you found it edifying and ask that you not only subscribe to our channel and podcast, but that you like and share this episode among your friends, so that the saving gospel of Jesus Christ can go out to the whole world.